Everything starts someplace, and I was there when this started.
This is Dale Matthews. Sorry about the ridiculous way this picture looks. Sometimes it's hard to run the camera and speak up when the time comes. This was a special meeting quickly put together by the Board of County Commissioners to decide the future of the county building in Cave Junction. It's an old issue, but it makes you wonder, what made it new again? It's not so much what as it is who. Gunter Ambron is a mild-mannered resident of the Illinois Valley who's known mostly for bake sales and meditation. When his neighbors were robbed, Gunter asked if there was group consensus for a neighborhood watch meeting. But he ran into some problems with Sherry Adkins, a local political kingmaker, and Cheryl Walker, a county commissioner. They wanted Gunter to turn the room over to them. Same day, same time, same audience, just an entirely different message. Their message. They told Gunter that he didn't really book the room, that they would decide, that he would have to find some other place at the last minute. And then he started being blamed for things, really. Give him 1 minute, just 1 minute, and you'll know by listening to him exactly what kind of person Gunter Ambron really is.
Yeah, thank you very much to Mark Gatlin and Cheryl Walker, Commissioner Walker, and also Sherry Atkin for booking and helping to make this happen here also, this segment. So, okay, I wanted to get a sense of the meeting. Mark Saltman would like to share some information about the tax levy in his form, and I wanted to see if it was okay for us to extend about 15 minutes and then take a break. We'll probably have to squeeze the break. We're running a little bit late. We intended to start the neighborhood watch sharing session around 7:30, so we might be pushing it to about 7:35, 7:40. Is that okay with everybody?
Did you find his attitude threatening?
Going through the sheet over here, we have county building. I think establishing a policy and that sort of deal with how we're renting it out.
Yes.
It's kind of floundering out there. And we really need to have some resolve on it.
Okay. The county building in all the Illinois Valley is not floundering. Stay calm. What actually happened is Gunter Ambron booked the county building in Cave Junction for a meeting. We know now that he was the first to reserve the room with a volunteer named Sherry. And then another person named Cherry got involved in the same room for the same time on the same day. That's when another person, Cheryl, got involved. You can see it coming. Too many Sherrys, Cherries, and Cheryls. In a normal world, we just laugh about it and make room for each other. That's what meek and mild Gunter tried to do. Even though he was first, we know that now, he offered to share with everybody. Here's the email. From Gunter Ambron to Cherry Atkins. Hi, Cherry. Well, you are welcome to join us, too. I look forward with courtesy and thoughtfulness to amend this situation and to service the needs of our community. Respectfully, Gunter. Wouldn't you think that would be enough? Well, it wasn't. Sherry Adkins responded that it looked like the building was double booked, but Commissioner Cheryl Walker would have none of that. Email from Cheryl Walker to Gunter Ambron. The county building is already booked by Sherry Adkins, SOS, at 6 p.m. on Thursday today. Cheryl Walker, Josephine County Commissioner. See, Commissioner Walker wanted to make a big push for the county's new levy. It looked like people were going to be there already. What a great opportunity. Email Gunter Ambron to Cheryl Walker. We're booked also. We have been planning and advertising this for 2 weeks. I have a lot of people showing up. It will not look good for the levy or the commissioners if we don't cooperate. Gunter. This is the so-called threatening letter. It will not be good for the levy or the commissioners if we don't cooperate. Commissioner Walker also decided that Gunter was being rude. Here's the short reply he got. From the Board of County Commissioners to Gunter Ambron. We are trying to locate another venue for you. The sheriff is aware. What would you do? He said there's no time to switch to somewhere else. It was the same day. Maybe that's why he seemed so rude. As you listen to Cheryl Walker's story to the other commissioners, keep in mind that we know now from the documentation that Mr. Ambron was the first to book the room. So why was he calling? Because he heard that there might be some kind of problem, and he's just that kind of guy. But how did Cheryl Walker describe all of this?
While you were gone last week, we had a mess with the building out there. We had an individual, Sherry Adkins, who called and made a reservation for the room for a specific time, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. on Thursday night, the 21st. A citizen out there called later, another day, another time, called later, and apparently the conversation was something like, yeah, I'm calling about having town hall on this night. Our person said, oh, it's already reserved. That person took it to mean that somebody in his group had already reserved it for him.
Oh, not that it was available.
Right. So he sends out notices, he sets up his program, he's got a whole agenda.
When Cheryl Walker is telling the story, even planning is made to sound ominous. Of course Gunter sent out notices and had a whole agenda. He wasn't the one that was trying to come in at the last minute. He'd been setting this up for a month. At the end of the Cave Junction meeting, one of the pro-levy people left a little mess, but that was easily cleaned up. You'll hear now that Gunter Ambron left the whole place a mess, so bad it couldn't be put back together. That's pretty serious. 8 eyewitness volunteers say exactly the opposite, and I'm one of them. How does it benefit the county and Cheryl Walker and Simon Hare claim that the place was left such a mess that it couldn't be put back together? Why would they say he left a mess and never had a reservation?
The county has been talking about all kinds of projects for decades, and this is one of them. What are we going to do about this? I was there when Gunter Ambron was discussed at your meeting, and it was said that Gunter Ambron was rude. You know Gunter Ambron. Gunter Ambron's not rude. That Gunter Ambron was threatening. If there's anyone here who thinks Gunter Ambron is threatening, raise your hand.
As it turns out, the person who really didn't have a reservation got a little bit, he was rude and threatening online, saying it's my meeting and I'll be there.
And that he left this place a mess. Well, I was here, and several people were here. This place was not left a horrible mess, as the commissioner said, especially Cheryl Walker. So what happened with the commissioners is when they heard that, my gosh, what do you mean they left it a mess? That's horrible. And that's what started this process. Well, we need to do something about people like Gunter Ambron that leave this place a mess.
Dale Matthews.
We're not going to have on video. And so, thank you very much. And so, because it started that way, now we've got this mess. It was started by someone who wasn't telling the truth, and that was Cheryl Walker. So what I'm trying to say to you is that if you start off the process with a big lie, it's going to end up being a big lie too. And that's how this all got started. The reason you're going through this now is because someone didn't tell the truth.
So why were they trying to shout me down? In a moment, you'll be able to see for yourself. Did all this start with the discussion of the town hall? In referring to Gunter Ambron's town hall, did Keith Heck say it was the worst case scenario? Did Walker say it was the perfect storm? Did Walker also say it was horrible? She said, so that's why I wanted to talk about it. That's what it started with. Walker and the staff member. The building was left a mess afterwards. Walker and the staff member again couldn't put it back together. Heck says, oh really? He says, well, but to me, that's where there ought to be an understanding that it needs to be returned to the condition in which you took over, because supposedly it was left a mess. Hare says, well, we have to plan all this stuff out for the least common denominator for things not working out. So now this rude and threatening Gunter Ambron is being described as the least common denominator. That's nice. How does it benefit the county to keep portraying Gunter, or me, or you, as totally incapable of understanding the simplest of concepts? And where did it go from there? Hare says, but you got to have somebody who's in charge of this. We don't have anybody in charge of this. And Walker says the room could be shut off. So now you can see how it started and where it's going. What was it that I was saying when they tried to shout me down? I said it started with the false story that Gunter Ambron left a mess. The commissioners thought that was horrible. And that's what started this process. Is that what happened? Go ahead, see for yourself.
It was a worst case scenario.
It was
Volunteer.
perfect storm.
Yeah.
It was
It
horrible.
was a worst case scenario.
So that's why I wanted to talk about it. We need to get, whatever it is we're gonna do, we need to get it in writing. And when people want to have the building out there, telephone calls will not suffice. They have to go in and sign something.
And the building was left a mess. And the
And the building was left a mess
volunteer
afterwards.
couldn't put it back together.
Oh, really?
She was the volunteer out there 78, 79, and couldn't move the furniture back and do all the rest. She just couldn't.
Well, but to me, that's where there ought to be the understanding that it needs to be returned to the condition in which you took it over. Otherwise, there is some
Well,
cost
sure,
that's
I
done to
mean,
you.
there should be some understanding of that anyway. There
Mhm.
probably was,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean that it's always going to happen. So
Right.
what, you have to plan all this stuff out for at least common denominator of things not working out well,
Right.
Sure.
having a forum. But you've got to have somebody who's in charge of this. We don't have anybody in charge of this. I think we seriously need, I mean, I don't know what we're looking to try to achieve, but that's not Baum's responsibility to
No.
rent out this space.
Mhm.
It's not our office's
The
responsibility.
person
I
that
don't
we
know
have
who-
out there, she's an employee?
A volunteer for a couple of hours a day in the morning.
We don't have a
Volunteer?
employee out there.
Okay. Is there anybody that is in there permanently in that office? Is it the chamber?
Soil and water,
Soil and water's in that building?
but they're paying rent. They're not responsible for doing this anymore.
They
That was
used
a-
to.
And that
That was
can
an
be
SNL.
shut off, that room can be shut off in the back, right? The meeting room, they're out front, correct? Soil and
They're in a
water.
Well, soil and water?
They're in a different side of the building.
Are they able to be
Kitchen.
closed off? Soil and water, are they?
They are closed off.
Okay,
They're in
no, I just
offices
didn't-
over where public health
Yeah.
operates and stuff.
Okay.
Okay, the ones that face the street? You said they rent out there in the county building.
Which street? There's 199 and...
Yeah,
Okay, 199,
Yeah,
and then the street this way, and the building sits right here, and this is the meeting room back here. And then there's a hallway and a door.
which where's 199?
This is 199.
Yeah. Well, there's a door here.
Yeah, but can that be locked off, or people can't get in there?
No,
Does it, the door doesn't lock?
you can't, yeah, that'll be a fire exit.
Yeah, that'll
in
be
the
a
case
fire
of
exit.
kid- That's why it has the,
Even though they have this?
no. But all of these offices are locked off. You can have access, public access to here, but there's no access to any kind of offices.
Okay.
They all have doors. There's a
Okay.
restroom, you have to provide
Right.
restrooms, they're right here.
So people, if they want to rent it, they should do it just like they do the Basker building. I mean, they should fill out paperwork.
Yeah, but
You
it
still
isn't
don't
the same.
have
You have
anybody
Bob.
out there to capture the paperwork, to look at the
They need to
schedule, to
come here.
hand out the keys.
They would need to come here.
That's-
We have facilities that goes and locks it up and stuff after it's over and sets the alarm. We can't have public people setting the alarms, et cetera.
Hmm.
So it's not
Is there an alarm on that building?
probably not.
I don't think so.
Okay,
Is
what
there an
I'm
organization
saying-
out there that can do something?
It would be the IVCDO and I mean, we've asked the city, they do not want to do it.
They don't want building?
They don't want the building,
They don't want the responsibility, yeah.
I tried to give Ryan a key and he said, no, the city does not want anything to do
Sure,
with it.
and that's understandable. That's
Okay,
understandable.
so what we could do is there could be an application online, but they're gonna have to do something in writing and submit it here, just like everybody does for the Basker building, right?
Well, that's one element of it, but who's going to facilitate all of that?
Well, if somebody wants to rent it, then they'll have to come in here and get the key. And
So
I'll-
this office is what you're suggesting.
Pardon?
You're suggesting, and I'm not saying it's bad, suggesting facilitating the renting of the county building.
If we're gonna keep the county building or make it available to the public, because I don't think having volunteers, and, volunteers are great, the volunteer's responsibility ends when their personal life gets in the way.
So what?
And I think that's why we had the issue last time, because they gave this guy a key in the morning.
Yeah.
No, but you came up here to
He
get
left
the
it as
kid.
a mess. He obviously wasn't told or wasn't impressed upon him how he had to do. And the fact that the person wasn't careful about saying, hey, it's reserved by, and saying a full name, are you part of that group?
Well, it's partially his question. I don't want to go into the
So
details of that.
I'm just saying that if that's what
How
we're
do
gonna
you
do,
leave a county building open I mean, just expecting people to lock it up even,
Right.
you know? There's nothing saying that somebody just walks away, leaves the lights on, leaves the door open with the heat running. There's a lot of liability associated with even just having it open. And without somebody there, a facilities person who, you know, our cleaning staff goes over there after every day and checks, makes sure it's locked up, lights are off, it's put away. We don't have anybody to do that. And you're right, we can't rely on volunteers to do that. It's not their responsibility.
Well, unless
If we had an organization out there that was willing to take that
well,
on.
that's the other thing. Unless there's some I mean, I'm just thinking of, you've got the Lions Club or whatever.
Yeah.
This becomes their responsibility. They have to be notified. They've got the key.
Right.
You know, all that kind of stuff. But I think it would be able to be done in somewhere like that.
Rosemary?
We've had discussions before on the CJ building, when it's super inefficient. And every year you'll see we put in to replace the boiler system or whatever out there to the tune of about $30,000 because it is super inefficient. Right now, the county's subsidizing that building. And that's a decision that needs to be made. You know, do we, as the county, have the resources to continue to subsidize a building that's being used?
How can we justify subsidizing a building when we can't keep our sheriffs,
Yeah.
you know, the citizens are paying for the Merlin one and the Murphy one's shut down. I mean, that's not responsible. We just, unless the sheriff isn't acting out of that one, he's acting at a city hall, which
He
has
was
a
allowed to
jail.
be moved,
That makes sense.
which then cost us another $2,200 because we're paying utilities on the city hall portion that he, or his deputy.
But that's
is
all
in.
we're paying? We're not paying rent there, right?
No, just the
Just
utilities.
utilities.
But that added an additional cost on that he was covering as part of his bond costs on the CJ building.
Right.
We have some uses for it, and we do have a lease agreement with the church that's paying about $4,000 a year, I believe. But I really, if we cannot donate the building to someone else, let them run it, and take on all those costs, then we may really want to look at maintaining the leases we have, but not renting it to the public just on a as needed basis. I don't know if they've got other facilities in Cape Junction that could be utilized.
Senior center.
The senior center, the Belt Building, it would seem like there would be some organization that would be clamoring to have access to a building like that and to run it like the IVCDO, but they have their own building.
Well, I was thinking if we could notify directly, notify Rotary, Lions, I mean, whatever service organization might be out there, and or some of the churches that are there, and to say what the plan is, what needs to be done. This has to happen because the cost is not able to be sustained. The county's not going to continue to subsidize it. Or do you have an interest in operating? But I think making people aware of the situation that's there would be the first step to do.
So maybe we have a goal by the end of the fiscal year that it's donated to somebody. I'd be in favor of donating to the community or to the IVCDO or something out there.
And that's what started this process. Well, we need to do something about people like Gunter Rambon
that's not up
that leave this
That is
place
not
a
Cheryl
mess.
Gale Matthews. So it ended up being a really nasty situation when this gentleman from the Valley had been told several times that he in fact did not have a reservation, and his comment was, well, you have a problem and you're going to be sorry.
But that is not what Gunter Rambron said. Instead, he pleaded for some kind of cooperation. That's the problem with Commissioner Walker. That's why I made this video. Gunter Rambron wasn't rude and threatening, as Cheryl Walker tried to get us to believe. He did not leave the room a mess, as Cheryl Walker insists. There is a connection to the first, second, third, and fourth conclusions. You've seen the video. Things were said about Gunter that were not true. Why? I don't know. Do the commissioners want to give the county a building away? I don't know. There were a number of suggestions by Simon Hare. He kept coming back to the same suggestion again and again. Is this the plan? I don't know. There's not enough information. But Gunter Rambron was lied about. It's not a waste of time to show you the emails and the videotape. I stood up for Gunter because it was a lie to say that he was rude and threatening. Why did the commissioners try to shout me down? What is this really about? Do you know? I don't. I do know that Gunter said maybe the county building could serve as a platform for the community, the local community, for community response, neighbors working together, so the county government could hear from us. And I also know that Gunter Ambron was not treated right. Commissioner Heck really didn't like the audience hearing about this. Here's how he summarized all the evidence you've just seen.
And that's how this all got started. The reason you're going through this now is because someone didn't tell the truth.
Are you done?
Yes, thank you so much.
If, as he said, if something starts off with a lie, then it gets hard to turn it around. His comment started off absolutely on the wrong foot. It's hard to turn it around. It's hard to debunk stories that go out that are absolutely bogus. It's hard to debunk that. So it's really a waste of time to try to answer a question that has no basis in reality at all. I mean, I was sitting there. Obviously, I was not listening because I did not hear all this conspiratorial plans that were afoot to turn the whole tide of Cave Junction against whatever. I mean, it's just absolutely being very naive. It's absolutely inane and asinine.